Hi there, and welcome to the second in this series of Follow Your Bliss interviews. I'm fortunate enough to be here with Les Leventhal today, who is, amongst many things, a yoga teacher and teacher of other teachers, but there's so much more to him than that. These whole series, as you probably know, are about people who inspire me. So people who are doing great things with their life and following their bliss in whatever way that means to them. And I really want to share a bit of Les with you all today. I first met Les when I was living in Bali. He was teaching yoga there, and if you've ever taken one of Les's classes, you'll know that he brings his whole self to the mat and lives his life in the same way that he lives his yoga, completely unedited, and bringing his whole self to everything he does. He's also the author of a fantastic book, Two Lifestyles, One Lifetime, which is very much about how yoga was central to Les's recovery from addiction. I can relate in a lot of ways around the love of yoga and how that's helped my own self-development, and I've been involved and have my own teacher training, being trained as a yoga teacher, and been heavily influenced by Les's style, because he really does bring a whole fun aspect to it and a lot of truth as well to the practice. So Les, welcome. Great to have you here. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. I just need to add an S on the end of one of those words. You said addiction, addictions, for sure.
It's never just one, right? Is it? It's never the same.
No,
It's the wider context.
it's not. And what you said is true too. There's the truth of me, which is an unedited version of what my past has been and how I got to yoga and recovery. But I want to have fun with that too. I don't want to get myself stuck in like, I did all that and I'm doomed to this miserable life of making amends for the rest of my life. It's like, I want to do that work so that I can be free. And then I want to get out there, and what I want to do is help other people. Because I think so many people have this message of, I did this in my past, and society, and you can call that religion, or you can call that the tribe of family, or whatever the upbringing is, says, if you behave this way, then there's a price that you have to pay. And some people fall into that trap for the rest of their lives. And I want to help people get out from underneath that belief system and say, no, you can honor all that stuff that you did, because I have to look at that stuff and think, okay, yes, I definitely hurt people. I harmed people. I harmed myself. But there's a way to clean that up. And on a certain level, to look and think, oh, what was happening? Why did I do that? And to tell stories in such ways like, oh, this can actually be like a fun night out with friends and tell some stories and have some good laughs. Like, what were we thinking? Now we know some nights we weren't thinking because we were just that high and that drunk, but that we can have really meaningful, purposeful lives.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be our identity. Our past is not who we are. And anybody who's done even a fragment of your class will know there's so much fun in there. I've never had such a great time as at Leslie's Rock and Roll Yoga at Yoga Barn in Bali. It was absolutely fantastic. And you really are, and you're getting out there now, and that's why I was saying you're so much more than a yoga teacher, because you really are helping people to go through their own transformations as well. I mean, whereabouts, tell us where you are at the moment, and a bit of the Les tour that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, so I've been on the road since July 1st of 2016.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's like some people would say I'm untethered, but I untethered myself from teaching daily classes so that I could tether myself more to getting myself around the world and seeing what's happening in different communities and different cultures. And sometimes, so right now I'm in Southeast Asia again. I'm in Singapore, and I just finished up in Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur, and I'm headed off to a bunch of Indonesia, Makassar and Jakarta. And I'll be doing Australia, which I've been doing for years. And it's interesting because sometimes I go places, and especially if it's for the first time, I step in, I think, who are you? And I always have that moment of, how much can I say and how much can I reveal? Because there have definitely been a couple of places where people just look at me and they're like, what? And now you want me to put my foot behind my head? I'm like, yeah, and have fun with it.
Yeah, and listening to some music and shaking your ass while you're doing it, right?
Shake your ass while you're doing it. So it's interesting. So I watch this thing with my ego in teaching, and also this connection to my past, where Because in addiction and recovery, we talk about that our challenges are intimate relationships and forming them and maintaining them. And so I always find when I teach that going to some place for the first time is like that first date. But it's different now because when I was not in recovery, I never wanted to go on the second date because that meant that you were going to start to get to know a bit more about who I really am.
Ooh.
And where my insecurities and my fears and the shame that I still hold and all that good stuff. But now it's like, oh, I really want these second dates. And more, I'm trying to think if there's ever been a place that I've taught where they've been like, thanks so much. It was really nice meeting you. Go bye-bye. So that hasn't happened yet. And some places it's just a matter of scheduling and figuring out how do I fit all this in. And then at the same time, recognizing that with my family, that things are also shifting and changing. It's like, okay, what does home mean and what's going on and what's happening in my own personal life? Because a really great teacher told me once, make sure, and I share this with everyone I work with, that go out and do your work. And I go out and do my work, but that when I get home, whatever that home is, that whoever is there, whether it's friends or family or spouse or kids or a dog or a goldfish, whatever, you've got more than just breadcrumbs to share with them. Otherwise, it's a form of, I don't know if I want to say cheating, but am I really contributing to the well-being of what I said I wanted with that relationship on the first date?
Exactly, and there's something about being really present there. I really liked what you said about that second date analogy as well. It's lovely because I think a lot of people listening here, you know, we're all on our own personal journey, for want of not sounding too cliche. And I think that being vulnerable and being able to be seen by others and being able to let people in and you know, take that step towards that second date. I think that's a really lovely analogy. I'm going to remember that one. I'm glad you shared that here. So these interviews all about following your bliss, and quite clearly you really are. So what does following your bliss mean to you? Because it means different things to other people. And how are you following your own bliss in life? Maybe we kind of talked about it a bit here, but where does that come from?
Where does it come from?
Yeah, what is this?
A little bit of it comes from this kid inside that still has that piece of watch me get away with this, or hearing people say things like, who do you think you are? You can't do that. And I'm like, oh, thank you for adding like some fuel because I am so going to do this. It's kind of like when I worked at a Japanese bank for 10 years, and I was leasing aircraft engines to South American Airlines. Like, I don't really have an engineering background. Let me rephrase that. I do not have an engineering background.
Thank you for your truthfulness.
I like when I catch myself. It's like, oh, I was just about to kind of sort of lie a little bit there. And it's like, I think we can do anything, and there's a way to get educated so we can go out there and do that. And then came a time where I thought there was something wrong with that company. And I kept trying to figure out how to fix all that. And that was the first time that I could say I got in touch with the whole idea of following my bliss, because I had been practicing yoga since 1999. And I left that job in 2005. Oh, wow. And so it was yoga that helped me with all of that to follow. At that time, it was a blind bliss because I didn't know I really wanted to teach yoga. I didn't know that was my passion. I knew I loved yoga. And I had this message of, you want more, do more than just classes. Go to some workshops, go to some immersion. And then someone's like, go to a training. Like because I walked off that corporate job. They were shocked. They thought I was going to the competition. And I quit on a Sunday night because I went to my boss's house for dinner. And they were so sure I was going to the competition. By 9 a.m. Monday morning, they had locked me out of my computer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, you were dead corporate. I can relate to that too.
Well, they saw what kind of a salesman I was, and they thought that I was putting one over on them. And I was like, no, I'm just leaving. They were shocked. I still stay in touch with some of them, though. There's actually a bunch of them close to you in Shannon, Ireland.
Okay, yeah.
And then I just thought, okay, whatever this yoga thing is going to be, I just wanted to teach classes. And so following that bliss was that piece of when that first person asked me to come teach a workshop, which was in Kansas City. in the middle of the USA. And they were scared to ask me because no one really goes there to teach workshops. And I've always been, if people ask me to teach, it doesn't matter where it is. For me, there's a certain kind of intimacy that gets created when there's 80 or 100 people in the room. Or this past weekend, we had 11 people in Kuala Lumpur, and there were people who were just like, oh, we've heard about you, and we're really scared. And when people approach with that, like, I take that like to heart, and I want to hold it like a little puppy. That doesn't mean I'm going to lighten up on the sequencing.
Oh, no. No doubt.
I'm gonna share with them in a way that's intimate, so that whether there's 2 people or 200, it's the same quality of experience. And I want to let them know, like, you don't have, for some people, it's that corporate path. That is their passion.
Yeah.
It was mine. Yeah. And that's okay. I don't want to tell people, like, go quit your corporate job, although I jokingly say that sometimes in class. But I'm talking to the people who are like, what am I doing here? And I think sometimes for some people, the only way out is to just take that leap of faith and jump. And that's what I did. And I come from a background that would strongly suggest maybe go the secure route and stop taking so many leaps of faith. But it's the leaps of faith that have brought me the most joy and happiness. Because I'd have to say, go ahead.
I love that. And I love what you said about blind bliss sort of thing. You don't know what your bliss is. Because I have so many people come to me. It's one of the top questions I get asked in coaching is, well, I don't have any direction. I can't set goals for my direction because there's not this kind of burning bush or holy grail in front of me, which says this is my calling. And you're yet another person, an example of a person who has followed just what feels like it's right. You know, you didn't know you necessarily wanted to be a yoga teacher. You didn't have it all mapped out for you, but you felt kind of called in the direction of, yeah, okay, yeah, let's go and do yoga teaching and see where it goes. And look where it went. I think it's a really strong message for people. It's like, you know, your bliss doesn't have to be something that you specifically know what it is. And there's something in the nature of the word as well. It's like, even if you don't know what it is, go with what feels good. I don't mean ridiculously hedonistic and, hey, you know, you did that for a while, but there's something else about bliss. It's not a huge concrete map. It's kind of, the direction that you feel called in. And I love that you did that and you took that leap again. Fantastic.
Yeah. I think the piece I want people that are listening to this or watching this to know is, well, I got the inspiration from my husband, who came home from his corporate job one day and said, I'm quitting and I'm going to go into design. Well, that was a natural leap because he's so completely gifted with design and architecture. And I was like, oh, you should have done that years ago, actually. And he did. It's been amazing. And then I came home a year later. I was like, I want to, because his schedule was like so free. And I saw how liberated he was and how much he changed for the better in so many ways about just how he was sleeping was such a big shift. And I was like, I want to quit my job. And he said, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. And honestly, that night I laid there in bed and I couldn't sleep. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And then that voice came in that I've heard, like, you don't have any skills really. Like what are you going to do? Who do you think you are?
You know,
yeah. But the tool that's been really great for me is to not have a big pool of people, but just a small surrounding of people who I share my very most intimate details with. And, you know, for recovery, that's obviously a sponsor. And of course it's my husband and a couple of other friends. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, the truth is right now, I'm making it all up. I don't know what I'm doing. So it's
many people are, right?
and so far it's been going pretty okay. But just to let people know, like, this is really where I'm at. Or maybe even more challenges, like, I have this really amazing idea and I just wanted to run it by you. And they're like, do not go near that idea. That is like the most bizarre thing and crazy. What are you thinking? Or even on top of that is to check in with my husband to say, hey, and he's like, no. You are not allowed to write a second book, because at least not right now. Because when you wrote the first book, he goes, for 3 years, he goes, I didn't get a lot of your time. I'm like, So there's a shift, and that starts to question my ego's part of the path and following my bliss and checking in with, oh, what are my priorities? And that we can, even in that connection to passion, we can still get lost. I'd like to have people to right size me and just say, hey, what are you doing and where are your priorities? That's been really helpful.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's a good job, a good tip for people, like you say, watching this, is that surround yourself with people, like a small group of people that you can trust, you can bounce ideas off. And also really important message there around that even when you've kind of decided to go off on this path of following your bliss, you're going to meander off this little path occasionally. And if you've got good people around you, people that believe in you and help you stay true to your priorities, they're going to bring you straight back in. And it's not necessarily, oh yes, suddenly I'm following my bliss and the pathway is open and down the yellow brick road we go and all this sort of thing. It's not, it's a wandering path. And like any aeroplane correction system, we go off and we come back in, you know, we're not just on some sort of beeline, which I think a lot of people are very, have a lot of fear about following what calls to them, because it's not laid out for them and it doesn't feel clear, and you know, then they might get put off at the first hurdle when they come off it a bit. So great tip for having that group of people around you. And I guess this leads really well onto my next question, which is, what's the biggest obstacle that you face in following your bliss, and how did you overcome that? Come back to the path yourself, right? We're always
I'm the obstacle. I'm the obstacle. I don't want to hear that message. I don't want to think about that message, but
maybe all the more reason to think about it then.
We have to. We have to face that. Otherwise, nothing's going to ever get done. It's like in recovery, we say, if in the course of the day you meet someone who's a pain in the A, you know what? Maybe they are. But if you meet a second person, start questioning. If you meet a third person, it's me. I'm the common denominator. So I have gotten really good at knowing when I do too much. And I know what burnout feels like. And I know what I think the gift of having years of experience under my belt now is I know people's quality of trying to get what it is that they need and being really helpful to them in saying no when I don't have anything to give, and just letting them know, like, I'm at the end of a teacher training. I cannot have lunch tomorrow. It'll be my first day off in 30 days. You don't want to have lunch with me tomorrow. Like, I'll be like,
yeah. So to know that, it's that quote of, you know when to say no to others to say yes to yourself. And self-care, again, sounds like a massive cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. It's so true. We were talking about this before a little bit earlier, weren't we, about you not overscheduling yourself this year as well. So
not overscheduling myself this year at all. And I always tell new teachers as well, so many teachers, like when I take a class as a student, which I still love to do, I'll hear a teacher say something like, let's try. I'm like, I don't want to hear that. I'm not your guinea pig. And two, it tells me that they're no longer practicing because they haven't tried it. So, but their gift is they got really busy. But I tell people, don't forget you found teaching yoga because you were a passionate student. No one just jumps into a teacher training and thinks, I'm going to teach them and doesn't have any practice. They had to practice first on their own. So I have to remember to continue my own practice and to make sure that I'm not scheduled as much, and to really watch my ego, because the world of yoga, and it's changing so fast from what it used to be to what it is now, and people's comfort level with all that, and sometimes quickness to step in and judge, like, that's not yoga, and what is this, and yoga lattes, and vino and vinyasa, and this and that. And for me, if it gets people connected and it activates people in some way, then I can't argue that that's part of the practice. Because for me, I had a woman a few years ago, she's like, I heard that you're not only doing yoga anymore. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I thought a true guru and a yogi. And I'm like, I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy who's on the slide and the guide that's trying to help people. And she said, but I thought people like that, you would only do yoga, and eventually you figure out how to get rid of all your stuff and you would go be in some ashram somewhere, something. I said, it's actually not the lifestyle I want to live. And I said, and yes, I found Zumba and I love it.
Brilliant.
And it's tightened my hamstrings again. So my splits are really painful again after years of being free and easy. But I love Zumba. So
more of your bliss, right?
It's more of my bliss.
A career doesn't have to be the sensible, yogi purist path. It's what calls to you. I love that.
But the piece that I got from that is my choices create obstacles in other people for their thought process about the comfort level that they want to maintain inside themselves of how they think things should be. And then here's the gift of experience. They try and project that onto me. Like, I'm responsible for what they're feeling about all that. I'm like, hey, now we've got something good to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always found that with your classes, always something really challenging. There's been points in your class where I'm sweaty as hell and just, having so much fun. And I want to kick you in the ass and hug you at the same time, because there is that putting that challenge and pushing people out of their comfort zone. And I remember the first class I did with you, what the hell was that? But give me some more, because it does. I mean, I remember we were chatting again earlier, where you pushed me out of my comfort zone, and you led me to go and do some things that I wouldn't have done, both in my practice and outside that. I think that's really important. It's another huge learning in life is that things don't necessarily happen in your comfort. Well, they don't happen in your comfort zone at all. They happen when you have obstacles and you push through them. And then, like you say, then we're having a conversation. We're just talking nicey and we're not really getting to the meat of it. And where's
intimacy?
Learning?
Yeah, I want that intimacy piece. And that's what my teachers did for me. And I want people to leave, whether it's my classes or I've been giving some talks from the book at some of the yoga festivals around the world. I want people to leave with like, what was that? Like,
yeah,
what happened? Was I at a carnival? Was I at a Halloween horror house? Was that was that like an ABBA concert? What just happened? What's really going on? Because there's so many in different directions. And I want to try and do that in a way that casts such a wide net, because, for whatever reason, and the gift that has allowed me to attract a lot of people, I want to make sure in some way I touch as many people. And I get that it's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to land for everybody. And the interesting piece of teaching in Bali, which I had to say, there's a small piece of not missing that, because sometimes people would sit there like this. And it would take me about 10 minutes to figure out, oh, they don't understand English.
Oh.
Right. So now when I travel around the world, my first question, depending upon where I'm going, is, do we need an interpreter? So if I do, I have that tool available.
So you have that ability to reach more people. I mean, there's been so many nuggets already and kind of words of wisdom in this and lessons for people. But what would you single out as a key piece of advice that you would give others looking to follow their bliss? And is there anything you'd have done differently in your path that we can kind of, take those nuggets of wisdom and share them with others?
I have to go back to that support network and to get really honest with those people, and just even if they have to sit down and say, look, I need to have a conversation, and we have a great relationship, but for me, I talk to people and say, I have issues with trust still. And we're going through another metamorphosis in our own lives and our family right now, and looking at my travel schedule, and is it conducive to what is family? And meaning that for the first time in 5 years, we went and spent the American holidays with family, with my family and with Joe's family, my other Joe. I have a lot of Joes in my life. It's a good thing. And we both had the same experience, like, oh, we really miss this. And family is getting older, that generation that came before us that way. And we're recognizing that time is getting short. And so we want to make that shift back in a certain way, but continue doing what I'm doing. And here's the beauty of staying connected to my passion. I have no idea what that's going to look like. Like we thought it was going to be Barcelona because that was closer and more convenient to get to everybody, but that didn't work out because I go to bed at 10, not dinner. I'm sorry for the other listeners. I go to bed at 2200.
Same here. In fact, I was in bed before 10 last night. It's so important.
Yeah.
But that support network as well is so important, like you say.
It's really important. And I have to like let people know, like, my support work network hasn't been the same people throughout my entire life. That has changed. People come and people go, and there's been people in my life who've been in my life for a really short period of time that have taught me a lot. And there are people who've been in my life for years. I'm like, what are you doing here? Why are you still here? So don't ever discount quantity of time for quality, because it can be huge. And I know for a lot of people, I know for myself for sure, in the early stages of recovery, like even the whole idea of that sponsor thing that we do, it was like, I'm telling you these things about my life that you kind of probably already know about anyway. But it was all the stuff that I learned as a school kid to not do, because if you let people know about you, they would hurt you. They would take things away from you. They would beat you, or they would, when I say beat you, I mean beat, well, it could be either beat, it could be literally beat, because I did have that too, but beat you in the sense of at the game of life.
Yeah, the competitive sense, yeah.
All those messages, and finding that tight-knit group of network of people to be like, you know what, I'm going to actually do the opposite of all that. And these are the things that have set me completely free. Now, does that piss off some of the people that taught me that old way of thinking and being, those belief systems? Absolutely. And is that challenging? Does that add sadness and grief to my life? Because those relationships aren't the way society has shown us on TV that they should be. Yeah. Those are some of my own personal struggles with passion and the definition of what is family. And what does that mean? What does that look like? I went through a really interesting thing with the holidays, in that and this will help your viewers get to know me really well. My step family has never used the word stepson or stepbrother in reference to me. And that was a huge hurdle for me to get over and through that. But I did, and it feels so good to just say brother, sister, mother. Like, how many mothers can I have? Well, whoever steps in and says, I'm your mama today. I'm like, okay, I like it. But that, because it was a fear of harming other people that are, intricately woven into that. For me, it's a pretty massive group of people, because everybody's gotten remarried, everyone's had more kids, and so many brothers and sisters that I have. Otherwise, I missed out on that gift of family.
Absolutely. Intimacy is so hard for people, isn't it? I think there's probably a lot of people out there who'll be listening to this that can really relate to that. The issues around trust and the things we're taught to do, in society. People are there to compete with you. This is the message we get, and keep yourself, otherwise people could hurt you, and you might hurt other people, and all of this. And actually just blowing that wide open, like you say, doing the absolute opposite, which is so you, is a great message for everyone else, because we get told all this stuff and it keeps us inside. And how much freedom have you got from the fact that you've been able to let some people in and just been open and said, so what? Society says you're allowed one mother, one father. No, I'm sorry. How many can I have? I think it's brilliant. And your bliss, your idea of where you're going, constantly changes. I love that. That's a really important message as well. And different people will change. That group of people around you. So be prepared for that. That's fantastic.
It's hard to be prepared for that, because the whole idea of getting, I guess I'll say, getting intimate, the word change, we don't always know when it's coming. And how many of us, myself included, do a lot of work when something feels good to maintain that in our lives?
Yes, we like to control that.
Of the control. And how many of us do a lot of work to make sure that we think the things that don't bring us comfort and joy in our lives, to keep that out of our lives?
Yes.
And for those people that are watching that are going to want to go on and teach or coach and do like what you do, it's like, these are going to be the people that we attract in our lives to help us. Like how would I tell people? I don't have yoga poses to help you eliminate fear from your life. What I have is tools to help you navigate fear for the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times that it comes visiting over and over and over again. I mean, I have days where I wake up and I open my eyes and I'm like, oh, I woke up again. Now what do I do? And I have days where I walk into a classroom and I'm like, oh, people showed up. I was kind of hoping, because when I first started teaching, I used to teach 6 a.m. classes, and that was in San Francisco in the winter, rainy, cold, and there would be days, because I was new teaching, I was afraid of people, and I couldn't look people in the eye, and no one would show up, and I was happy about that.
I can't imagine that of you, and that's amazing. You know, the people we think are the most confident, actually we all have fear, and it's going to show up again and again. I mean, I teach workshops on fear, and I can teach it because I have the experience of it. You know, it's not like we go, oh yes, you know, I'm here and I don't have any fear, that's why I'm teaching you, and I'm going to magically get rid of it. No, I think people are a bit sad to learn that in the first few minutes of anything, because it's, you know, it's going to keep coming up. Absolutely.
And it's those people who, I go back to one of my moms who's in my book.
Yes.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but there was an exchange between us years after we had lived together. And she asked me if I was done talking, because I needed to make amends for a whole lot of stuff. And I said, and I knew that the question that she asked, are you done talking, came from the fact that I had clearly forgotten something. And I forgot the biggest something of all the things that I was making amends for. And usually amends should be a one-on-one, but it had been so many years, and the way everything was up. So my sister, brother, my husband, we were all at lunch. And I just felt this moment of like, this is the time. So this conversation happened with other people there. And when she said what I had forgotten, I actually, for the very first time in my life, couldn't believe what was coming out of her mouth. But I knew that it was true. She would never make up something like that. And in that moment, I was taught one of the greatest lessons of my life. Because what I did to her and what I said to me is beyond excusable. It's one of those things that I still hold in my heart as, wow, how much pain was I in to be, I'm going to say it this way, that disgusting of a behavior to another human being. And yet here's this woman who has some capacity from a rough life, not a rich life in money and rough with relationships, until she, I think, had met my dad, and I saw such a love there that showed me that forgiveness for anyone about anything is possible. So I take that experience and I bring it into everything that I do today. And everyone that when those changes come and we think something's wrong and we want to attack or blame or go back to that guarding and protecting piece of, because I'm not going to let you hurt me because I've given you so many details about my intimate life and how I use shame as a foundation to love my husband, just all that stuff. It's like, no, I still have to stay open.
Exactly. And that's a really hard part for sure. And I love what you said about using, you know, we try and stay away from the things we think are bad. You know, the good stuff, great, you know, we're, you know, sitting there meditating, doing whatever, and everything's going well in our life, great. We want to hold on to that, and there's a big control issue. But it's actually the difficult stuff that we need. That's part of our practice too. And I don't just mean a yoga-based practice, but anyone who's just going on stuff in life. One of the Buddhist monks, Pema Chodron, who's based in the US, she uses the term manure for bodhi, which is use all the manure, the shitty experiences in life to fertilize, to grow, the roses. I mean, it's all getting very dramatic and metaphorical, but use that crap. You don't shy away from that crap. Embrace that crap, and it sounds like you have, and you using it even as the basis for a lot of the stuff you do, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's an enormous foundation and rock, and what I have now in trust that however we're navigating, wherever we're going to land up, if that's going to be Florida for a while or a couple of years or forever or for what, but that's where family is right now. And so we're sort of heading in that direction. Still have lots of travels this year, and And I've been a gypsy my whole life. I've been on airplanes my whole life, and I don't think that's going to stop. And I was in aviation for 12, 13 years, and I still, to this day, I still look up in the sky. I'm like, how does that thing? It should be like it's up in the air. And the truth is, engines just want to go forward. So we're just like little aircraft engines.
Oh, I quite like that metaphor. I really like that. So what is next in the gypsy way of life? You know, what are the next steps? What can we tell people about that you're getting involved in, that they can come see you at, or they can, you know, just get a bit of what you're doing, because you know, you had a big influence on people's lives. So tell us what's next.
Yeah, so lots of teaching all over the world. I'll be doing lots of Australia, and then I'll be coming to Europe, and I've got a couple of retreats, a little Costa Rica retreat. That's actually surrounds my 50th birthday. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know. It's
what
like,
a way to do your birthday.
I'm still alive, like crazy. But for me, it's about, I've always taught on my birthday. I've never had the day off. And this feels like it's a day where I should completely give back from a place of gratitude that somehow I'm still alive. It's a little bit of a miracle. But it's like I never had a plan. It's like, oh, I didn't have a plan to live past my 20s, let alone 30s and 40s. And poof, here comes 50. And then I'll have the training in Bali, which is August. And then I'll do, what am I going after that? I forget. Oh, yeah. I know. So people have to go to my website, really.
I was going to say, what we'll do is we'll put on, when I edit this video, I'll put on at the bottom your website. People can go check your yogawithles.com, I believe.
We changed. We did a whole rebranding.
I missed it. Sorry, Anne.
If they go to that site, it'll just point them to the new site, which is Les Leventhal Yoga.
Perfect. Les Leventhal Yoga. I'll put that on the bottom for people as well, but they can check out what you're doing. I know you were telling me earlier you were going to do something in Rome as well, which I'm very excited about because I might be going there. When is that due?
Yeah, Rome and Malaga are in May.
Oh, lovely.
And we might be putting Milan back in there again. And then I'll be at the Innsbruck Yoga Festival again this year, which will be in September.
Fantastic.
Oh, come to Dubai. Dubai will be fun too. That's in September.
I've never been to Dubai. Maybe I should come along to that one. I haven't got a travel plan at the moment, Liz, so you never know.
Food's amazing. And then we're going to take like we were talking earlier, there have been these start-stop projects with the book about doing more with that as what I'm doing is I always do my teacher trainings because I love sitting with that kind of transformation and getting people to connect with how they hold stuff and where they hold stuff in their bodies. But I'm starting to connect with more people that their yoga practice isn't about rolling out a mat. And so I'm really listening to, and I feel like this is part of the following the bliss down a path that I don't know what those doors and windows are going to look like. And the people that I probably haven't met yet that are going to open me up to new ideas. But taking the book and looking at more speaking engagement that are sort of more like like workshops and really doing more writing and different speaking engagements. And there have been two different people that have said, have you ever thought about a movie? And I'm like, that's an interesting idea. And that's crazy. And of course, then my mind's like, who would play me? Who would play my stepsister? And she's like, you have to get Deborah Messing. I'm like, yeah, I'll call her right up. It's like, hey, Dad. Dad, how you doing?
Wow. So the world is your oyster, and you just love what you're saying. You know, you're following your bliss, and as you're doing that, doors are opening. And even if we don't if we stay in our comfort zone and we don't follow our bliss, then we might not know what the path is, but the doors are never going to open because we're not walking in that direction. So you're just walking that and following your bliss and seeing what comes to you and new experiences and new people coming into your life.
Because I could say, movie? No, that doesn't interest me.
Oh, yeah, so it does.
I lived in Hollywood for 7 years. I had a little bit of an interest in movies. No, I'm not going to say unfortunately. I went down a different movie path. It's in the book.
I remember. We won't share that here, but people should read the book. That is a good plug.
But my idea and thoughts and the conversations I've had with people is not like big blockbuster movie, really. It's more like a documentary type, where I would then go to small film festivals and give these talks for people who are like, I'm where you were. How do I move? I'm stuck. These are the people I want to connect with.
I love that. I love that about transformation, getting people unstuck and helping people find their own bliss, maybe.
Yeah.
With no to end on. Well, thank you so much, Les. It's been fantastic. I always love having the chat with you. And it's nice to be able to share some of what you're doing with other people. You know, I really think that it's great to have inspiration from all different sources and to learn about what bliss is for you. And to know about the next steps. I'll put a note on at the bottom of this video about the book and how people can get hold of you on your website and find out a bit more. But I just really appreciate you sharing your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe.
You're so welcome.